Hey everyone, Ryan here, MandRproductions, with my review of the highly anticipated LEGO Star Wars 75325, The Mandalorian's N-1 Starfighter, a 9 and up set based off the Book of Boba Fett. It has 412 pieces and in the US retails for $60, a price that has gotten a bit of flack, and in today's video hopefully help you determine whether or not it is worth that $60 price. The first thing helping it maybe be worth that $60 price are brand new Peli Motto and BD-Droid characters, as well as the Grogu and the Mandalorian returning from some previous sets. Definitely a ding against that $60 price is the Darksaber, just using the lightsaber hilt piece, just the laziest, cheapest way they could have done it, and that seems to be their MO at this point with some of that stuff. Kind of vibing on the box art, and I do really love that dark green stripe and Book of Boba Fett characters down there on the bottom left. As we turn to the side of the box, you'll see another shot of that Mando's N-1 Starfighter, and on the very back you can see kind of inside the hangar bay with the characters all mulling about, and then below there it shows off some of the play functions we'll definitely take a look at here. Let's unbox this thing. Unboxing is always just the beginning for the fun with LEGO sets. In this particular set, it looks like we have one little sticker sheet here, actually. Just a few stickers in the set, so that's probably positive for a lot of people. A substantial amount of pieces. Oh, what is this? All these years, LEGO instructions have always parroted the actual box art, and this is not what I expected to find inside this box. And it's one of those kind of like bad CG renders, so it's not even like a real physical image of the ship. It just doesn't even look like it. It's kind of sad in that way, so I'm a little disappointed to see this. It does kind of give a vibe that, you know, it's going for that environmentalism look versus like the box art look, obviously. And in here it says that they're changing from plastic to paper bags, which is why you might see a mix of plastic and paper. But in this set, I only got all plastic, so not happening quite yet here. Man, that's just weird to me. I guess that's the vibe they're going for, though. Saves on ink. You know, that'll save them some money, I suppose, too. Good for the environment, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, that's just unexpected. And unsurprisingly, there are no summer 2022 set pictures in the back, just other Boba Fett base sets. The Mandalorian minifigure in this set is generally very good, but it does have two bad things and one good thing that I want to tell you about. First bad thing is the Darksaber. The designer said they didn't have enough time recently to make a new Darksaber mold, but they completely failed to acknowledge that they've been using the same Darksaber since like 2012, so it kind of falls apart from that perspective, but you know, maybe another decade and they'll figure it out, I don't know. And then as far as the helmet goes, the print is still shifted down just slightly, but definitely noticeably. It's been a problem on all these Mandalorian helmets, and it continues here despite being falsely advertised on the front of the box as being shifted up. Anyway, the good thing about this particular figure, obviously the printing otherwise with the arm printing and the leg printing and waist printing is all fantastic. Great detail. The jetpack on the back is nice, although I think the coloring on it is slightly off. But yeah, if we remove the helmet, you might have noticed there's actually a face underneath. There it is, Djarin for the first time, no longer using the straight up just black Lego head. And the skin tone is, interestingly enough, kind of an in-between. It's not as light as this, but it's also not as dark as the skin tone color that we get for our clone troopers. So kind of an interesting in-between there for Djarin. But nonetheless, I'm pretty impressed with the look, and it's much nicer than the good old just plain black head. Nice detail. A figure here that I quite like is the Peli Motto. She's got her tool belt, she's holding the wrench, she's got a very nice hairpiece that I think pretty well represents her hair from the show, or I guess both shows, The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. And you can see she does have some wrinkles on her face, and she's got kind of a half-hearted smile. And having flipped that face around, you'll see the second facial expression with much less smile going on. But pretty impressed with this Peli Motto figure. Let's take a look at the two smaller characters in the set. Baby Yoda, or Grogu, is one of the other characters included in the set. Most people probably have this figure at this point, so it's not going to be a big draw to pick it up. But it's a very logical inclusion, especially because he's going to be sitting in that back little bubble with Mando in front of him. He's going to be so cute, but he does retain the posable head and everything. It's just not a figure that I think is particularly exciting at this point in 2022, given he's been around for a couple years. Now, a figure that is exciting is the BD-Droid included in this set. We see him scampering around next to Peli Motto in the Book of Boba Fett, and we finally get the LEGO version here. It's just completely one mold. There is no movable pieces on this, but it does look like it fits nicely in the LEGO system, especially this hole at the back looks like it could have a rod piece. Let's say the Darksaber be inserted into it without any problem. So an interesting little thing to have added onto the back there, but the print on it seems generally very nice, even with my very zoomed in camera for you to get the best look at the detail I can get with it focusing. The first thing I have to say about Mando's N-1 Starfighter, having built it, is it's surprisingly large. It is deceptively like advertised as this kind of small ship in my opinion, and like this thing's kind of huge for $60. This is the 2015 Naboo Starfighter, and you can see like, yeah, they're similar size I guess, but still I think it's substantially larger. When you put it over top, I think it helps illustrate the point that the Mando's N-1 Starfighter is just a bigger, beefier, I think beefier is a good word, beefier ship, and definitely compared to the N-1 Starfighters of old, it's gonna be bigger. I'll be making a full comparison video of every Naboo Starfighter, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Starting at the very front of the N-1 fighter here, we have these two cannons, and they look really sharp in my opinion. It's one of those things where everything just kind of comes together, and in this case it looks beautiful. You have this kind of hood, I suppose, right before the hyperdrive, and the hood is just very nice and round. If anything, it's the most distracting part of the design because it has no studs on it other than at the very top. Everything else just kind of has a nice mixture of studs and tiles, whereas the very front and center piece doesn't. So not necessarily a knock or a good thing, I suppose. It just, that's the way it is. The engines are rather nicely built with a lot of detail. It looks like it was worked on in a shop, you know, that's kind of the vibe it gives to you because that's how this thing was created. It does have one sticker on the top there, but it is a slightly different design on the other engine, so not a perfectly symmetrical design for this ship. You'll see more of that as we move on, but yeah, it's a slightly different design here without that stickered piece, so you can see that. And then we have the thrust coming out of the back represented by the translucent blue piece. Going to be the same deal here back on the other side. Just beautiful, intricate design work for those engines, and then underneath them is a large 2x6 tile, and then more just kind of round design with exhaust kind of coming out the back there. So that's pretty sharp in my opinion. I'm a pretty big fan of the look of the engines, especially from behind. I think it looks pretty good too. Now, under the center part of the ship here, you can see the spring-loaded shooter, which actually functions by pushing down on the hyperdrive part here. So if you push down on that, it's actually going to shoot the spring-loaded shooter. Here we go. And just like that, it fires off. We've all had spring-loaded shooters before. It's nothing new there. The bottom side of the fighter does look good and kind of all this gray coloring here, except for this, like this very big, ugly, kind of tannish, orangish piece here. And I'm really wondering why they used that, because in the show, I looked back at it, it is certainly silver all on the bottom of the ship. There's not this big particular section that is tan like this or orangish like this. Like, it is very mind-boggling to me why that piece was used here. I think the obvious answer, I suppose, is just cost cutting. It was the most cost effective for them to just use a piece that is the wrong color instead of producing that piece in gray. But, you know, only the best is good enough, and every detail has to be accurate. All these things the designers say, but don't actually follow through on. So, rather unfortunate to see that here. I really just don't know why. It's not something that massively is going to take away from the look or design of the ship. I mean, from the top down, you're never going to see it, but, like, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be right anyway. There's one more kind of pseudo-bad thing on the bottom of the ship that I would feel bad if I didn't mention. This little engine bit here, it looks really nice. I think it's actually probably like the hyperdrive exhaust, but it's built really nice. It looks really good just from like a play point of view, not something that I actually would be affected by, but if you're buying this as a gift for kids, this is something that could break. It is built well to like withstand force like this, but whenever you get a couple different angles going on it, it can kind of pop off a little bit too easily in my opinion, and it looks like it would have a Technic rod that would stop that, but it actually doesn't. There's no Technic rod that can go into that, obviously. So yeah, it's just a small thing, but something to look out for on this set as something that can break off during the course of play. Getting into the midsection of the set, kind of an unintended feature, I suppose, but you can kind of get the hyperdrive piece to pop out. You're gonna break some pieces off, but it is something you can do, and then you can kind of recreate the process of building Mando Starfighter like they do in the show, obviously. So you can pop it off, and then you just kind of have this big empty space here where the spring-loaded shooter actually is housed, and then you can pop back on. Like, simple thing, but maybe something nice for kids. The better section behind that is right here, something that's not very obvious, but you can just pop this right off, and you have this very nice large cavity that you're going to be able to fit two things in. So if Mando wants to fit in the cockpit, he can't be holding the Darksaber, pretty obviously. So with his jetpack and Darksaber off, they can be nicely stored in this nice storage bay in front of the cockpit. Sometimes the design of a set can be hindered with something like this, but in this case, it fits perfectly flush. You would never know it's there, so it's certainly a plus. Let's get into that cockpit. So all you have to do is lift up the clear piece. Now there's a bit of an issue I've found when lifting it and putting it back down. These plates, or this brick here, can kind of block it from time to time. So you can see it's kind of blocking it, and then if you push it down, it'll kind of click into place, even though it's not really clicking into place. So as you can see, that's a bit of a problem. Interestingly enough, it is also a problem represented on the instructions manual. Here, you can see they have it slightly lifted up. Not really sure why. Usually, you know, a 3D render like that wouldn't have the same issue as a physical product, but kind of interesting to see it represented in that. But you can see there's kind of the headrest at the back there, and then a small seating area for Mando to kind of slip into, which is nice that there's no studs in there, so you don't have to worry about his legs potentially getting stuck. And you can also see a nice control panel at the very front of that. But if we want to sit Mando in there, all we got to do is put him in a seated position and then pop him in. I usually just push down on his legs and push his torso back to get him to sit all the way back, and you can close that up nicely with him in there. He fits in pretty much perfectly. You can see to his left, there's a little black and yellow striping with a little bit more yellow on the other side. Just, again, nice kind of color break there that gives you a slightly different vibe for some of the set compared to just all the gray otherwise. So that's kind of nice. And then behind him, of course, is the bubble, and this is a nice bit here. So there's just one stud in there, and that is obviously going to be for Mr. Grogu, who fits right in there just perfect. And isn't he the cutest? I mean, that might be worth the price of admission alone on this set to be able to recreate that. I just love that this is the direction that Disney went in for Grogu and Mando's buddy ship here. I know obviously the Razor Crest got destroyed, but this being like the next of kin for Mando here is pretty cool to see. Beyond that, there just isn't too much else to say about this set other than the piece at the very back has kind of a rubbery tip, which is nice. You don't have to worry about it like snapping off or something in the course of play. As with the rest of it, it's kind of built strong enough to withstand some nice hits and not just completely fall off. So it seems like a pretty strong design overall. There are no pieces on this that are just going to be flying off the ship. I mean, even the piece underneath that I had mentioned, it takes a little bit of force to get it to come off. So pretty good design-wise from that perspective. I thought I might feel like this set is overpriced at $60 when I got it, but having built it and experienced it, it feels like $60 is about on the money for what you can expect from a LEGO Star Wars set in 2022 here. It's got 4 characters. I wouldn't quite call the 2 in the middle there minifigures, but getting that Mando face and the new Peli Motto figures, it's definitely a plus at that $60 price range. And the ship, like I showed, is pretty large compared to the last Naboo Starfighter, and it feels just like a beefy ship. It doesn't feel cheap. For me, it's a 9 out of 10 set. Obviously, it's got the shortcomings that I explained, but it's definitely got a lot going for it as well, and it's just kind of suddenly become an iconic ship for the Book of Boba Fett, and with the Mandalorian Season 3 coming out at the end of the year, I think this particular set is only going to become a more popular choice for something to pick up. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and check out more LEGO Star Wars 2022 set reviews on the end screen now.